Hello, everybody. Welcome to your first non-webinar webinar. I'm so excited you guys are all here. We're going to wait just a couple minutes as people are getting on, but drop in the chat. Let me know where you're from, what time it is by you. It's 4 o'clock here in Boston, which means it's happy hour time. I don't know what time happy hour time technically starts, but I'm going to say it's at least 4 so that I'm like doing well on that front. Hey, Chicago, Vancouver, 5 o'clock somewhere. Yes, exactly. 1 o'clock on Vancouver Island, so that works. 1 o'clock happy hour. Lunch. Hey, everybody. It's so great to see you. I'm so excited to get started. Milwaukee, hey, Brad. I grew up in Wisconsin, so give a big wave to all of my Wisconsin friends for me, friends and family. Hey, team. Oh, more Massachusetts friends. Love it. This is our chat. If you have questions throughout the rest of the session, definitely drop them in here. My girl Kelly is here with me, and she's going to help me highlight questions as they come in so that I can answer some at the end. Obviously, you all submitted these incredible questions during your registration, which is why we're here. This is an Ask Me Anything, all about webinars and non-webinars. And I'm going to get to absolutely as many as I possibly can, but I am also going to try to leave some room at the end to answer any that might arise. So I do want to keep our time together to like around 30 minutes because I know you all are busy and you have a lot of things to do. So I don't want to go too much past that, but we'll get as much done as we can. And we can definitely connect after if there's anything outstanding that we want to talk about. So let's jump in. We are going to kick off our Ask Me Anything with the most important question, which is, what are you drinking? I'm in Massachusetts, like I said, so I'm drinking Cold Snap, the winter beer of Sam Adams, although it's 55 degrees here, so it's basically summer. So yeah, let me know what you're drinking. Again, so excited to have you here with us, and let's get started. So hey, I'm Ashley. I am the Director of Marketing at Demio, and I'm really excited to do this with you. So like I said, you guys asked some really great questions on your registration, and I really want this to be interactive. So this is casual, but it is engaging. It's meant to be conversational, right? So you guys ask questions, I'm going to ask questions back. That's how we're going to make sure that this session is a good use of your time and doesn't make you feel like you're sitting in a college lecture hall or something. So I want to ask you something right now. Drop this in the chat for me. Tell me what you hate most about webinars. Drop them in. You guys asked a lot of great questions that kind of hit on this topic, which is a lot of, how do I do this better? How do I make sure I don't look like this? How do I make sure my company does this when it comes to webinars? So you all have a really great idea already, I think. I want to know, what do you not like about webinars? Yeah, when it's an obvious sales pitch, too salesy, not adding enough value, too salesy, not visual enough. Yeah, love that. Sales, not engaging, when the audio and video doesn't work. Yep, great, love it. Okay, one more question. This is question number 3 before we jump into some other questions, some of your questions. Okay, so you told me what you hate about webinars. Tell me how you feel about webinars. How do they make you feel? Excited, happy, educated, waste of time. Yep. Inability to connect. Yeah. Connected. Okay, good. That's something how you feel. Kind of torn. Time sink. Yep. Good most of the time. Fun, empowered. Oh, that's such a great way that webinars should make you feel. I love that. Necessary. Yeah. Useful. Awesome. Okay, good. This is really good. So what I'm going to share with you today is going to challenge the way that you might think about webinars and webinar content. So we're going to do a lot of reframing. Okay, we're going to throw out the rule book a little bit so that we can focus on how to provide webinars that really empower you and actually help you drive revenue for your business, which is what we all want to do. So are you guys cool with that? Can you drop a yes in the chat for me if you're okay with doing a little bit of reframing? You've got your drink, you've got an open mind, you're ready to kind of get into some new ideas here. Awesome. So keep asking those questions and let's get started. All right, so this is our very first reframing that we're going to do. There's two foundational reframes that we're going to touch on before we can really get to the heart of a lot of the webinar questions that you asked. So the very first one is the desired outcome of your audience. So the desired outcome is basically what your audience is trying to achieve. That's the definition, okay? So notice that I'm not talking about the pain points of your audience or the challenges of your audience. Those are words that marketers like to throw around quite a bit. We love to talk about pain points and challenges, and we love to talk about creating content based on pain points and challenges. But I think that definition is a little bit worn out and it doesn't serve us anymore. And the reason is because of a sentence that's here on the slide. This is Building a Story Brand by Donald Miller. And he wrote that companies sell to solve external problems, but buyers buy to solve internal ones, right? So let's use Demio as an example. Our audience's desired outcome is not to buy a webinar platform, right? That's not like the hope and dream of all of the marketers out in the world that are our target audience. Our audience's desired outcome is to feel confident and look good while they're doing their job. And their job is to build revenue generating campaigns for their business, right? So this is the reason that I don't like to focus on pain points and challenges, because usually when marketers focus on those are primarily external challenges, external pain points. They don't get to the internal drivers. So in order for any of these webinar questions that you all put so much thought and attention into, in order for those to become relevant, we have to know what the audience's desired outcome is, right? So in order to figure out what your audience's desired outcome is, you have to ask them. And that's why I put this really cute image of that Jerry Maguire kid. Remember that kid from Jerry Maguire? He asked like a million questions. The head is 8 pounds or whatever, right? This is what you have to think about. You have to ask why a million times until you get to an internal driver from your audience. Internal drivers are things like resources, the desire to save money and save time, a sense of belonging, like getting promoted, looking good in front of colleagues, getting a raise, feeling like you're part of a community, right? These are the actual drivers that get people to make change and take action. So that's why it's really important that we think about our audience's desired outcome and start to move away from the idea of pain points or challenges that are primarily external in nature. Okay, so that's reframing number one. Reframing number two. Okay, now that we know what our audience's desired outcome is, now we can build a webinar. So the purpose of your webinar is to bring your audience from their current state to a state that is closer to their desired outcome, okay? So usually when I ask the question, what is the purpose of your webinar? I hear two things. First, to get leads. Second, to provide value. So let's look at those. First, to get leads. That is not a webinar purpose. That is a webinar goal. And it's a great goal. If that serves what your objectives are for your business and your department, awesome. But we're going to move away from thinking about that as a purpose. Let's look at providing value. So this is another reframing that we have to do. The problem with the answer providing value is that it focuses the conversation back on us, the company running the webinar, right? It forces us to ask, what's my value? What valuable features does my product provide? What incredible expertise does my team have? It's forcing a conversation around what's so amazing about us that I can distill upon others, right? It's the wrong question. It's the wrong frame. The right question is, what is the desired outcome of my audience and how can I get them closer to it? This reframing allows you to focus back on your audience instead of thinking about yourself. And when you reframe in this way, as you're building a webinar and a webinar strategy, you're much less likely to put on a webinar that feels like an unwanted sales pitch, right? That's what so many of you noted about why you hate webinars, is because they all feel like someone's trying to sell you something. So what this requires of marketers, of those of us putting on webinars for our target audiences, is that we really have to know what that desired outcome is. And I really think that is actually where a lot of marketers are falling down. It's not the webinar itself that's the problem, it's the framework. And I bet that a lot of the companies that are putting out terrible webinars are also putting out a bunch of other terrible kinds of content, right? It's just that webinars are a little bit more public facing. It's a lot easier to fall down on a webinar than it is in a white paper. But I think that is the point that marketers should be focusing on when they think about what am I going to do a webinar about? Why do I even care about webinars? What's the purpose, right? It's desired outcome. So look at the slide. So currently, I have this picture of this woman who's literally like swearing expletives, right? She's like so angry. I call this the state of disbelief or unknowing, right? This is where your audience currently is. Maybe they are in a state of, they don't know your company. They don't know your brand. Maybe they're in a state of pessimistic, maybe they don't believe what it is that you're putting out. Your job is to bring them to a new state. Maybe that new state is one of, I'm excited to continue the conversation with this brand. I'm excited for a sales demo. I'm excited to learn more. Maybe it is, hey, I'm ready to buy, but maybe it's not. Maybe it's just getting them a little bit closer to what it is they need. It's like getting them to see that there's a light at the end of the tunnel. So at the beginning of the presentation, I asked you all what you hated most about webinars, right? You began this session in a very specific state, a mindset related to how you think and feel about webinars. So my job over the course of this non-webinar webinar is to introduce the idea that webinars are easy and enjoyable and actually can get you revenue. And I'm going to do it by answering the real life questions that you have, and by helping to introduce these new frameworks so that you can put on webinars that aren't terrible. That's what most of your questions were about, right? How do I do this in a more engaging way? How do I do this in a way that actually converts? How do I do this in a way that actually drives impact? This is the foundation for that. So this is going to bring you closer to your desired outcome. You want to feel in control, you want to feel capable, and you want to feel like a rock star when you're running webinars, because that's your job, right? Okay, so how are we doing? I'm going to look in the chat. Are we feeling good? Are we aligned on this? You guys want to like grab another drink before I move on, or are you guys good? Okay, yeah, I'm seeing some audio stuff. Cool. Grabbed a Pop-Tart. Awesome. Love this. Okay, we're going to jump in. Okay, so now we've got a framework, okay? A guiding light. Now we have to put it into practice. So I organized these sections to cover all the questions you all submitted. Now we had over 220 questions. Okay, so believe it or not, they pretty much all fell into these 6 buckets. I categorized them so that you know you're not alone in your webinar questions. So we're going to start with the very first bucket, which is, how do I start? A lot of you asked about this. A lot of you asked about, how do I get started? Where do I begin? And has the train already left the station? Am I already behind because everyone around me is doing webinars and I don't know how to compete? A lot of us feel overwhelmed, right? So I liked Karen's question. Karen asked, What are the 5 things to make sure of before hosting a successful webinar? So let's go through those. The very first thing, set a webinar goal that aligns with a business goal. The very first thing. You already did your framework, right? You already have your desired outcome of your audience. You already know. Now you have to build a webinar that actually impacts your business goals. And Toy asked, how do I tie it to revenue? This is exactly how. This is going to also help you understand what part of the funnel your webinar is driving. Right? So let's look at an example. If the business is trying to dominate a new vertical, right? Maybe that's the yearly objective, is we're going to market and we're going to dominate a brand new vertical, a brand new industry. So you are going to build a webinar. It is going to be maybe in Q1 to start the objective off on the right foot. And you are going to have a very specific goal of targeting individuals in that new market vertical, right? That's going to be very top of funnel for you. You are introducing your brand and company to a vertical that has probably never heard of you before. So you're going to track how many of those people in that new vertical attended. Those are your KPIs. So that's how we start to make sense of how the webinar drives greater impact. Make sure that it has a goal that impacts your business objectives, and make sure you have KPIs that understand whether or not you were successful in doing that, right? And then again, that will help you frame where in the funnel am I driving toward, which is going to be really important too as you build out your content. Number 2, after that, I know my audience's desired outcome front and back. Always make sure, because as I'm building out content, as I'm thinking about ways to be engaging, as I'm thinking about questions I want to ask and learn more about, I'm always thinking about them, not thinking about myself. Number 3, creating a topic that brings them closer to their desired outcome. So we're going to look at a specific example of that on the next slide. But Brett asked, how do you brainstorm webinar content? I ask them how it makes them feel, just like I asked you all. I like to talk about those internal drivers. Webinars make people feel like they're being taken advantage of. That's what I heard you guys say. They're salesy, they're a waste of time, they make me angry, right? And it makes them mad. It makes a lot of you mad that you're wasting your precious resource just to be sold to when you didn't want to be sold to. So that's how people feel attending terrible webinars. When presenting webinars, people often feel inadequate, nervous, self-conscious, not capable. So from this, knowing these feelings, these internal drivers, there's a whole wealth of topics I can talk about. I can talk about presenter best practices, how to actually get in front of the camera and feel confident. I can talk about how to build webinars with a framework that doesn't make people feel like they're wasting time with you. I can talk about how to cross-functionally have subject matter experts train other colleagues on how to deliver accurate and reliable information. That is a really good starting point that I've always had a lot of success in, is asking about the feelings, because it'll bring you closer to those internal drivers that'll help you create topics and content that will actually move the needle to bring them a little closer to where they want to be. Number 4, promote the hell out of it. Number 5, make sure I don't have spinach in my teeth. Basic. Those are the 5 things. Basic, basic. And then my guy Johnny down here, he asked if I have any templates, and I do. So I'm going to drop those in for the chat right now. These are webinar strategy templates. You can take a look at, go into your chat and grab those. This is everything that you need, basically, to get started with building a webinar. I'm also going to add for you a link to a step-by-step guide to building out a webinar strategy. These 2 are the best resources that I have, incredible resources to literally bring you from 0 all the way to a successful revenue generating strategy. So definitely take advantage of those. Okay, and we're going to go on to the next one. So that was section 1. That was a lot of you asked about how to get started with webinars. Okay, the other category y'all asked about were about webinar use cases and formats. What kind of webinar do I put on? Who do I use to do it? And what part of the funnel does it show up in? So one of the best things about webinars is when done really well, they can show up in all parts of your funnel, right? This is why it's so important to tie your webinar goal to business objectives, because basically no matter what your business objective is, you can do a webinar. It shows up everywhere. So I've highlighted a handful of ideas that you can use here in the image, and I'm actually going to start at the bottom of this, this image and work my way up, because Jessica asked how webinars can help with new user onboarding and tutorials for new and advanced features for existing customers. So the answer is that webinars can help with new user onboarding because it's a two-way onboarding channel, right? So look, one-way onboarding channels like in-app messages and email, those might work really, really well if your product is one that's easily understood, if it's quickly adopted, and if it's working for you. Those channels are working for you, awesome. But something like an open house webinar where customers can simply drop in during their onboarding process and have questions can be a really powerful way to, one, gauge how they are actually adopting the product, answer the question for yourself, how is the onboarding experience for my users? And two, get an understanding of those key roadblocks that are showing up in the onboarding process so that you can alleviate them. Right? Alleviate them. You want to make sure that those barriers are not barriers in your onboarding process, but first you have to identify what they are. And the best way to do that, again, is ask. And so a webinar provides a really great opportunity for that two-way communication channel. Now, this actually requires you to enable, your chat or your Q&A. You have to actually use these features in order to make that, again, a two-way communication channel. So then for the middle of the funnel, I see a lot of success with companies using webinars to announce product launches, run through product demonstrations, and do case studies. And then top of funnel, we have webinars that help provide your company with validation and social proof, right? Brand affinity, we talked about that a little bit on the previous example. Owning a new market vertical, wanting to introduce yourself to a new space, that's an example of top of funnel. So this idea of this funnel obviously isn't new to you, right? These examples I laid out of the formats and the funnel stages. But again, I want us to reframe the way we think about these with the new ARC framework in mind that we just talked about. So let's go back to the awareness phase for a minute. I want to answer Jean-Marc's question, which is how to leverage webinars as a lead gen tool. So when you're framing your webinar for top of funnel, you have to be really careful that you aren't creating a webinar that is actually a middle of funnel topic disguised as top of funnel. I see that a lot. So let's talk briefly about top of funnel. These people are roughly in the awareness stage. Maybe they know you, maybe they don't, but they aren't showing any buying intent signs yet. That's usually what middle of funnel is doing. That's why, product demonstrations and features, product feature announcements work so well in that stage because they're looking for solutions. So again, we have to be really mindful about not putting those type of webinars at top of funnel and calling them top of funnel. So this is a checklist I do. Are you disguising a middle of funnel webinar as a top of funnel webinar? Questions to ask yourself. Are you showing a demonstration of your product? Probably not top of funnel. Are you spending a lot of time talking about product features? Probably not top of funnel. Is the KPI associated specifically with generating sales? Is your hope that all of these webinar attendees are immediately going to be turning into buyers? Probably not top of funnel. Is it overly technical? Say it with me. Probably not top of funnel. And I have this little cute GIF meme for you because I hear a lot about providing education. When you think you're providing education, but your attendees just saw a product demo, we got to start to really clear up those different funnel stages. Yeah. Okay, cool. Let's look at an example, a really good example of a top of funnel webinar. So Meet Edgar is a social media management platform, and they had a goal, a webinar goal of increasing their email subscribers. Okay, that's their webinar goal. The KPI they were tracking is the number of new email subscribers that came from this webinar, very specific. So in the ARC framework, they recognized that their audience often feels frustrated, internal driver, frustration, feeling word, by social media creation. Any marketers out there resonate? I know I do. I hate creating content for social media. It makes me feel like it takes me all day. And at the end, I have like one sentence and a poorly worded sentence at that. So Meet Edgar wanted to create a webinar that brought their attendees a little bit closer to their desired outcome, which was feeling like a social media content rock star. They wanted their attendees to leave their webinar being like, yeah, I got it. I can do this, right? So let's look at the checklist. This checklist is called, very professionally, the checklist for making your top of funnel webinar not suck, okay? Really clear. 1, will this webinar topic move them from one state to another? Yeah, look at this example from Meet Edgar. Literally, the topic was how to plan a year's worth of content in one day. I'm expecting to be in a new state of mind when I leave that webinar. Are you kidding me? Sold. All right, number 2, this is going back to our story brand methodology. Are we hitting on internal challenges? Yes. We're talking about saving time, right? We're talking about easing frustration. We're talking about internal drivers. Good. Number 3, does the webinar still have a clear goal and KPI? Yes. Email subscribers. We want to clearly identify email subscribers that come from this webinar. And number 4, is it a middle of funnel pretending to be a top of funnel? Nope. This is a perfect top of funnel example, okay? So, I'm gonna drop a checklist resource for you. That cute little checklist, I got that for you. You guys can download that and put it on your desktop so that you always know how to create top of funnel webinars that don't suck. So Sadiq asked me, what's an example of the best webinar that you've seen? So I'm going to tell you an example of this webinar last quarter that got me really interested and really engaged. So Marketo, very popular email marketing platform, marketing automation platform, knew that I was probably looking to reevaluate Demio's marketing tech stack. And I had a BDR or an AE or someone email me like 3 or 4 times for a meeting. I kept declining because I knew Marketo was not going to be a system that I wanted to evaluate on behalf of Demio. Not a good fit for us, wasn't what they needed. So then around mid-November, I got a very personalized invitation for a cookie decorating event that they were doing virtually. It was like, hey, Ashley, no worries about not wanting to evaluate Marketo, but do you want to come do cookie decorating with us? And I was like, yep, sure do. Here's why this is important. These are the kind of events that are actually going to shake up the noise in the webinar space. Another question you're all asking about, how do I break through the noise? You got to do events like that are about brand affinity, that are about getting people at your top of funnel to love you. We did a similar event at Demio back in December, which was the first holiday season during COVID, which was real hard for everybody. And we did a 5-minute meditation series on Demio. No funnel. No emails went out to those afterwards with like a, hey, check out Demio's free trial. It was just like, come spend time with us. This is hard. The holidays are hard. Let's just be together for 5 minutes and breathe. Easy. These are the top of funnel things that we want to start paying attention to. Okay. All right, cool. So let's move on. So this is a lot of you have also been asking about like specific funnel examples. I'm keeping an eye on the chat. Okay, specific funnel examples, like walk me through, okay, I've got an ad, then I go to the registration, then I do the webinar, then I do a CTA. So this is an example of that exact same Meet Edgar funnel. Go ahead and screenshot this slide. I'm also going to drop in another link to more funnel examples. This was actually pulled from this URL that I'm sending you. There's 7 total funnel examples, all in these beautiful graphics that show you exactly what these companies did, from how did I choose my goal? What was I trying to do? Who did I promote to? And what were the tactics I used for promotion? And then what were my results? These are like copy and paste, like go copy and paste these. Really easy examples. Cool, screenshotted. Everybody take a break. Everybody take a sip. It's like a drinking game, but it's not. Drink responsibly. All right. Oh, promotion. Okay, so Melissa asks where to advertise for attendees. This is a big question, right? Because obviously this is going to depend on like, who are you and who's your target audience and what is their desired outcome? But these are some easy tips and tricks that I just want to drop for you. 1, leverage your employees and leverage the guests that you're having on is part of your webinar. So if you're bringing on like a thought leader or like a customer to talk on your webinar, you better be dropping them some easy graphics and some easy copy for them to copy, paste, and drop on their own LinkedIn. It is free advertising, and it helps to like spider web your promotion out like this. Same thing with employees. We have a channel in Demio on Slack where I literally just drop in links and a little bit of copy and say, go, go, go. And the employees are excited to help support these efforts. They put them all over the place. It's awesome. That's number one. Number two, obviously your email list, that's an easy one. But again, make sure you're segmenting that so that you're actually targeting the right people and you're not blasting your whole database. That is how you get people coming to your webinar and feeling like it's a sales pitch because you sent it to a bunch of people who were not interested or ready for a sales pitch. So really work on that segmentation. 3, videos. You guys, you got to start doing videos for your invitations to your webinars. Did you all see? Put in the chat if you saw the video I made for this webinar. Put in the chat. I'm going to wait. Yup. Did you like it? Yup. Because it's different, right? And because it's me, and I'm excited about doing this webinar with you, and I'm going to personally tell you why you should come. It gives you a sense of like, who is this presenter? What are her qualifications? Am I going to like this? It gives you a little bit more confidence even, and like, it gives you a little bit more ownership and agency over, am I into this or am I not, right? Okay. Number 4, graphics that hook. This is very specific. Your graphic for your webinar, the goal of that graphic is to get them to either read the copy of your social media post or get to that registration page. And if you can't get their attention from your graphic, they're going to bypass your post. So your graphic needs to be controversial. It needs to be colorful. It maybe needs to be not a graphic in a video. It needs to be something that people are like, wait, and they stop, right? You cannot move them down. This goes for everything, but you cannot move them down any part of your funnel if you don't hook them first. You got to hook them before you can teach them, before you can help bring them closer to their desired outcome. 5, I'm like 1 off. I swear I haven't been drinking that much. 5, put it in your email signature. One of those little graphic banners that you can drop in your email signature. I have one in mine right now that every single person, when you send them an email, they're going to see a go register. Boom. Everyone on your sales team, add it to theirs. Boom. And then one-on-one invitations. If you're doing a middle of funnel webinar and you've got people in your pipeline that are a little bit hard to close, your sales team should be sending one-on-one invitations. You should be personally inviting the people that they are account owners for and saying like, hey, listen, I'm going to be there. Are you going to be there? What do you need? Remember when we were talking last week and you had this question? She's about to answer it. That kind of stuff. People love one-on-one invitations. Great. Presentation skills. Ooh, this is a good one. Okay. How do we make webinars more dynamic when people don't want to be seen on video? That is what Sylvia asked. You have 2 options. Either you train them to be more confident, or you train someone else who is an awesome presenter, but not the subject matter expert. Either way, you're either training the subject matter expert to be a great presenter, or you're training the great presenter to be the subject matter expert for an hour. These are your options. And they're not crazy options. I mean, there's nothing wrong with having the most engaging, the most communicative person in your company running your webinars, even if they are not the subject matter expert. Sometimes it's better, right? Because we're going to talk about how to drive engagement. That was the number 1 question people asked. We're going to get to that in the next section. But my number 1 advice on driving engagement is to get an engaging host. You can do all the emojis, you can do all the videos and all the GIFs that you want. But if your host is dry, boring, and awkward, your audience will not feel engaged. What if you're both the best presenter and the subject matter expert? Then you get to wear a crown when you do your webinar. That's awesome. Good for you, Amber. All right. So Anna asked, how to manage when you're asked a question but you don't want to answer it. Oh, I love this question. Okay, you have a few options. Option 1, you can make your chat private so that no one but you can see the questions that are being asked, and then you can casually ignore it. Option 2, you can keep your chat public and still casually ignore it. Option 3, you can address it by saying, you know what, that's a really great question. The answer depends a little bit on your use case or your setup or your requirements. I'm going to follow up with you directly after this event to make sure that I give you the best answer. Okay. The other option that I always like to leverage, my girl Kelly's out here doing it for me, use a colleague or team member to help you manage the chat, because they're going to make sure to highlight those best questions for you, the ones that are really going to serve your audience and help to make sure that you don't look like you have your tail between your legs, right? Some other basic tips for presentation skills. Make sure you've got the right hardware, setup, and background. Be seen, be clear, and be heard. Do a test rehearsal. It will absolutely skyrocket your confidence, and it'll help you identify the weird hiccups that you do on camera that you didn't know that you did. Put a sticker on your camera so you know exactly where to look at all times. And pull someone else in to help you manage the chat so it's one less thing for you to focus on, right? You can focus on your people. You can focus on getting across your message and engaging with people without having all of the other distractions and responsibilities that come with managing the webinar. All right, cool. We're flying through. I know we're at half an hour. You guys still with me? Yeah. Okay, cool. So during the webinar, lots of questions about operations, timing, and length. My opinion, as close to 30 minutes as possible. Nobody wants to sit for an hour-long webinar, right? They just don't. So as close to 30 minutes as possible, ideally 20 to 25 minutes of content with 10 to 15 minutes of questions. Top engagement tips, apart from keeping it as close to 30 minutes as possible. Demio, we talk about a big promise in our webinars. That's what we like to do in our webinars. There are 3 things that happen at the beginning of webinars that drive the big promise. First, you demand attention. Speak with purpose, be clear, be concise, and be powerful in your delivery. You have to gain the trust of these people, of your attendees, right? Just because they're here doesn't mean they're going to stay with you. We know that. Attendance drops rapidly. Gain their trust, just like you do with every other content piece. You know, be confident in your delivery. Require the eyes on you. Okay, the second is to create connection via engagement tactics. Use the chat to ask questions that require responses. Use polls, use quizzes, use call to actions. These all require input from your attendees, and that's what we're looking for. We're looking to turn our webinar attendees into participants, into contributors. If you want your webinar to be more engaging, invite an opportunity for your attendees to engage. Engagement isn't just one way. It's not just about me up here singing and dancing. It's about, am I hearing the questions that you're asking? Am I addressing the needs that you're having over the course of the webinar? And am I utilizing the features and opportunities that the platform provides to do that, right? And then the third is to get a micro commitment. Tell your contributors, hey, I'm going to reframe the way you think about webinars today. Are you guys okay with that? Drop me a yes. Remember when that happened? Oh, it's like meta. This is how we do it though, right? This is how we do it. Get a micro commitment, get permission. Again, it's really about building trust, right? It's about making sure that I'm earning the place that I have up here, which is to talk with you for 40 minutes, 30 minutes, okay? Gets them excited too. All right, so, oops, we're not there yet. A couple other questions that I want to address here. How to make them less lecture and more interactive and engaging is what Sharon asked. This is really about leveraging B in that the big promise. The easiest answer that I have for this is, if you don't want it to feel like a college seminar, make it accessible and easy for everybody to understand the content you're providing. Sometimes that means maybe you're not doing slides, maybe you're doing videos. Sometimes that means maybe you're switching up who's talking. Sometimes that means maybe leveraging the chat and the polls in order to get more feedback about where your attendees are. So leverage the engagement tools that your platform has to offer. Best way to use videos and animations is what Bob is asking. Videos and animations should be used to break up all the talking. This is another incredible way to feel less lecture-y, is just to revert away from the slides. Keep them awake by showing them videos that break down the concepts in a visual way and also appeal to the people who are more visual learners, right? It's also a nice way to offer humor or levity. If your hosts are not the comedians like I, offer other forms of content to help add a little humor to the situation. It keeps them engaged and excited. Okay, then Gretchen asks me, do you always need to provide a giveaway at the end? Again, I'm gonna maybe blow your minds with this one. My short answer is no. Giveaways should be used if they help your audience go from one state to another. And if it's a giveaway that your audience really cares about, it can be used as a promotion tactic to leverage, right? Only if you attend live are you going to get this giveaway. And that's a great tactic to use if it serves that desired outcome need. And of course, it has to be relevant to your topic. This is another one to check on that. Is your top of funnel webinar really a middle of funnel webinar? If you're running a top of funnel webinar and your giveaway is like 3 free months to your product, it doesn't jive with your topic. It doesn't jive with your audience's desired outcome, right? Cool. Yeah, and I did give some giveaways. These are, we got to rethink the way we talk about giveaways. I'm just giving you crap that you need, okay? All right. So after the webinar, yes, great questions. You just put on a killer event. The question is, now what? Typical answer is you download those names, you shove them in your CRM, and you start what marketers call a nurture, right? And that might absolutely work. I am not digging on nurtures. Nurtures work great if the nurture is specifically designed to bring them closer to their desired outcome. Typically, nurtures don't do that, right? Typically, nurtures are like a 3 email sequence. The first one says like, hi, my name is. The second one says, here's some case studies. And the third one says, are you ready for a call? That's not a nurture. That's not helping me get to where I want to go. That's trying to jumpstart my journey from top of funnel to middle of funnel. And I ain't she is loud. Can you see the dog? Sorry, team. Yeah, we're working from home, and sometimes I like to poke her with a stick when I want her to really, Sorry, team. Yeah, I have a dog, and she's loud, and sometimes I ask her to really weigh in and support my moments. So I apologize. Anyway, yes. So Amber asks us, how can we convince attendees to take action following the webinar? And the first answer is that it is absolutely our responsibility to know what action is going to make the most sense, right? So again, a top of funnel webinar should not be driving toward a sales demo. Maybe it should, but we need to really identify what is the appropriate action that is going. Can you hear me now? Hi. Oh, it's a day in the office. Okay, so again, the first answer is it's our responsibility to know what action is going to make the most sense. If we want them to take action, we have to help them understand which action is going to help guide them toward that desired outcome, right? That's our job. We have to know what the right action is going to be. So again, remember that Meet Edgar example. Their goal was email subscribers. And so their next action was getting people to subscribe to their email list. Maybe they did that through one email. Maybe they did it on the webinar itself. Maybe they did it through a series of emails that got there. However long it took them to get what they wanted, I bet they did that. So that's the first thing, is to figure out what it is that we actually want them to do, right? Okay, so Darius is asking, how do we create a consistent audience with webinars? And I really think this is where brand affinity, the power of brand affinity comes into play. You got to make sure people like your brand. That's the difference between brand affinity and awareness. Awareness is people know your brand, and affinity is people like your brand. If you want people to consistently show up for your webinars, you have to consistently create content that brings them closer to what they want. And that means content across your entire strategy. Again, webinars are a little harder because they're public facing. There's like a presentational element to them, but this is about all of your content. This is about thinking about your larger content strategy. Your brand needs to have a great reputation for putting out good content. And it's something that you have to practice, right? Your first webinar probably won't be any good. Or maybe it'll be great and you can wear a crown like Amber. But you got to practice. This kind of stuff takes practice. You'll do more, you'll get better. Webinar series are also another great tactic to use if you're trying to get a consistent webinar base. We see companies leverage webinar series a lot for training and onboarding. It's the idea that you have a series of webinar sessions, and when someone registers for one, they're automatically registered for all of them. So it can definitely work post-acquisition. We see that a lot, and I think it definitely has a place in pre-acquisition as well. And then I definitely want to get to Kendra's question, which is, how do we better leverage on-demand webinars? Kendra, this is a great question. Basics of an on-demand webinar. It's a pre-recorded video that you upload into your webinar platform. And then instead of setting specific dates and times, it allows attendees to join as soon as they register. So the power of this is that it really gets your audience when they are most excited about you, right? They're on your page registering for your event, and then they just attend your event versus being so excited, registering, and then being like, great, wait 14 days, see you then, right? So webinars that are on demand are great for small marketing teams who might not have the bandwidth or the money to pump out live webinars as often as they want. And they're great for evergreen content, the kind of content that never ages and is super relevant to your audience. Your best content should be on demand. Throw it up on your website in your resources section, and it should live for as long as that topic is relevant and helps your audience go from one spot to the other. Okay, so I promised you 30 minutes and we are at 47, and I just want to say, like, I am so grateful that you guys stuck with me through a longer period of time, through a dog. I mean, yikes. I'm so honored that you're here. If you got to run, I get it. I get it. But if you have questions and you want to stick around for 5 more minutes, please stick with me. I probably really only have 5 more minutes because then my kid's going to come home and you thought the dog was loud. Get ready for my 5-year-old. But I would love to answer any questions you have. And please know, at the end of this session, you're going to be redirected to a brief survey. Please take it. Please take this survey. It comes directly to me. I wrote it. It's personal. I want to know, does this event work for you? Is a non-webinar webinar something that you would come to again? Did it serve you? That's what I want to know. So let's jump into some questions. Do we have any? How can I help you? Yes, I will be sending over the webinar recording. That will automatically come into your email following the event. Let's see, I have another question. Any ideas on marketing B2B webinars for a very small company? Yeah, I always recommend for small marketing teams that you really leverage the power of on-demand webinars. I think you just start with one. I really do. I think you start with, what is the biggest business objective that we feel like we can powerfully impact, and you test. That's what a lot of this stuff is, you guys, is testing your funnel, testing your content, testing your presenter, testing your experience. A lot of it is a test. Every time you do one, you learn something new that helps provide better webinars for you in the future, and just helps to continue to build that relationship with your audience. Will a webinar be effective for selling 2 services? Yeah, sure, absolutely. I mean, we use webinars all the time. We have clients and customers using webinars all the time that sell services and not products. They're certainly not product specific. What's the difference between on-demand webinars and just watching a video on a site? Good Good question. So as a webinar host, when I put together an on-demand webinar, what that gives me that a lot of video kind of things don't give me is, one, if I want to gate that webinar, that on-demand webinar, and get that lead information, I can do that. Two, I can get really powerful webinar analytics. So I can, just like my live events, I can see where are people petering off, and I can go back into my content and say, yes, where the dog barked. I lost 14 attendees at that time. I'm just kidding. Maybe I did, I don't know. But that's really the power of that. And also, I think, again, doing webinars, do hybrid webinars. It's another great way to leverage on-demand webinars, which is the idea that you do a pre-recorded, some of it's pre-recorded, and you still jump on live to facilitate sort of that, that relationship building. You can still jump on live to answer questions and manage the chat, but the bulk of your content is pre-recorded. Great option, again, for my small marketing teams and for my nervous presenters. If you're someone who, like, the lighting has to be perfect and I can't be sweating and, like, my clothes have to look awesome, then maybe you want to record that. Totally great, and upload it, and then you can just come in and manage the chat. Great. Okay, so listen, we're now at 50 minutes, and I am dangerously close to my child walking up these steps. So I want to graciously thank you. If you have more questions, please email me, ashley@demio.com. I will answer your questions personally, or I will present you with someone more equipped to answer them than I. I'm grateful for you. Please take the survey. Thank you so much. It was great to be with all of you. And I hope that you have an awesome rest of your week and an awesome rest of your happy hour. Have a great one, guys. Bye.